Good morning, rejects. Today I have a quick video briefly talking about one of the most frustrating things I've ran into during my playtime of Rogue Trader. There's a soft lock which happens in Chapter 2 where you needlessly drop your Navigator's Insight since, you needlessly made the safest warp routes in the entirety of the Grim Darkness. Since I wasn't expecting this and spent them willy-nilly, it led me to be downright miserable with the game. This softlock happens when you don't have enough insight to chart a new route to main mission systems that requires you to spend a high amount of insight for the trip. This will cause you to be consistently switching between star systems and praying to Big E that you get the random event you need in the worst case scenario. It's really, really annoying. Now don't let that confuse you. I love this game. I've been drowning hours into the story and my relationship with Cassia. But she needs to start perceiving things real quick or I might start abhorring the mutant. Navigator's Insight is a resource that allows you to cross the different systems through the warp. These routes can range from safe to absolutely deadly. You can use it to establish new routes and lower the difficulty of the warp travel itself. By this, I mean like the random events which go from a little bit of text to annoying ass fights that are extremely repetitive after like the third, fourth, fifth time. Usually, you're fine so long as the warp current is yellow, which is unsafe. You might take a little bit of hull damage, but normally you don't get caught up in random repeated events. In this video, I'm going to give you a few tips to make your gameplay a little bit easier and prevent you from making some of the same frustrating mistakes that I did. Starting us out, and the main purpose of the video, tip number 1, avoiding the soft lock. This is the most important tip and a good way to save a lot of frustration. Never drop below 3 insight. This is like your end-of-the-line safety net, as once you first start exploring the Chronos Expanse, you have plenty of ways to build up your insight in the beginning. However, and especially towards the later end of the chapter, you'll run into a huge problem, especially if you weren't expecting it. You are able to build new warp routes to further system. This costs 3 insight to do so, and always starts out as deadly. Since deadly implies really bad things, and we don't like really bad things, particularly warp ones, we have to get this to the unsafe level. This will cost you even more insight, and it's quick to see why you don't want this to happen. What eventually ended up happening to me is I used all of my insight making warp routes that made it easier to travel, and ran into a huge soft lock. Especially if you're trying to explore the middle left region of the map, or the Winter Scale domain, you'll have to spend insight to reach these places. Since I had already spent all of mine, I had no easy way of getting quick insight besides cheating and downloading Toybox. It's like a little mod thing. I refused to do this, especially on my first playthrough, so I had to find other ways to build up insight. So in order to avoid this, it's good to have that little safety net. Now, 3 insight is really pushing it. You at least want 5 so you don't have miserable consequences, but 3 is the minimum you need to at least chart a new route. Otherwise, if you run out of insight, you're going to be spending quite a bit of time building it back up. In total, it took me about 3 hours to get the random warp event that I needed to get the resource. Which, talking about that now, leads into the next tip. Tip number 2, special events and missions. There are some random, special events and 2 side missions that will reward you with insight. Or at least these are the ones that I found in-game and some I've seen on Google. The missions are guaranteed insight, but as they are spoilers, I don't want to tell you the exact way to get 25 insight. Instead, I'll tell you where to go. Just, don't be doing a heretical evil run and you should be fine. The first is a House Orselio quest that can be done on the capital planet of the Von Valancius dynasty. It is in the Mundus Valancius system, and it'll be pointed out to you. It's a companion quest, so you'll see it. The second one is a completely gutted void ship anomaly in the Mu Rho 79 system. This gets you 10 insight. It's pretty obvious what you have to do here, just, same thing, don't be doing a heretical run. These are the 2 missions that will give you a good stockpile, but there are random encounters that you get just from traveling the warp. Since these aren't spoilers, it's okay to tell you, but basically 2 require checks to pass. You get these from traveling unsafe or higher, but it doesn't appear to increase the chances of getting these events by going onto more dangerous routes. So in order to avoid the combat encounters, we typically need to stay in unsafe warp routes. You are pretty much guaranteed to get an event on dangerous or deadly though, so if you feel like risking it, you can do the more dangerous travel. Just know, most of the time, it's something that's going to be either reducing your cargo or forcing you into a fight. One of the first events you can get is one that's like trusting the Navigator. This rewards you with 2 without having to do a check or anything. It's pretty nice. The second is investigating a warp reef, which is a little bit of a harder warp check, but rewards you with 6 insight. These both seem to be super rare, and it's super demoralizing if you are having issues trying to pass the warp check. There's also some other random events that can occur. Usually if you just trust the Navigator with these, you will be rewarded with 1 insight. Not a lot, but any little bit helps. Tip number 3, farming the encounters. Like I said previously, these are random encounters. I've looked up some articles with one saying that they appear in specific systems or regions, but I don't think that's true at all. There are some good locations that help you with a quick loop if you are trying to farm out some of this resource, but I don't see this showing up quite a lot, very often. It's very, very frustrating. These 3 sectors here in the middle are pretty close together, and all of them are unsafe. Simply rotate between all of them until you get enough insight. Honestly, it doesn't even have to be these systems. You can do whatever system you want, but it makes me feel better, and triangles are pretty cool. Tip 4, when to make routes. Now, besides just generic exploring, you can still make routes with insight that you've got built up. Do this in order to cut down on travel time by building bridges between systems that are split off from each other or in different regions of the warp, or the Chronos Expanse, I mean. To do this, go to the specific system you want to start the route, and then select the end destination. You'll see a pop-up window that will allow you to chart a new route to the end system for 3 insight. It will always be deadly, so you have to spend 2 more insight for a total of 5 insight to bring it to the unsafe level. I'd also do this for building route to your colonies. This will cut down on potential hazards and eventually save you some scrap from the encounters that damage your ship's hull if there's a lot of distance in between. However, if you take the ship upgrade that reduces the cost to repair your ship, then this cost-damage ratio is significantly reduced. Overall, this isn't a need-to-do tip or anything, but more of a convenience kind of thing. 100% do not do this if you are low on insight. Tip number 5. Keep routes that you travel often at unsafe. This is kind of a no-brainer, but unless you don't really like clicking, then keep routes that you routinely go through at unsafe. This will give you a chance to farm the insight encounters and save you some insight by not wasting it by bringing it down to the safe condition, which is the green one. If you're lucky, you'll be able to get a few of the insight encounters, but don't count on them showing up often. Like I said, I only had the Warp Reef encounter show up once in 3 hours. Anyway, that's the video. If you made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe to join the ranks of the rejects, where membership gets you absolutely nothing. As always, thanks for watching.